What are you thinking at this stage? I mean, it's like 30 years. I imagine you weren't really. I shouldn't say it. I mean, were you expecting to recover again one day? Did you
No,
think?
no.
When did you give up on the possibility of recovering your health?
Probably because I was so involved in advocacy and I saw the research coming through. I just didn't ever feel like anything. Okay, this is what I felt like. I felt like there was a wheel to recovery. I felt like the research that's out there, especially now, there's some really good research right now. They were the spokes, right? Everybody's got a spoke that they believe is the answer, but no one had the hub. There was no hub. There was no common denominator to all of it. And that's where your program came in. To me, your program was clearly the hub that tied everything together. Right. It just clicked. As soon as I read it, I thought, that's it. This makes sense. It's definitely, yeah.
So you feel that was the turning point, or do you think the turning point happened before that?
No, this program was definitely the turning point. I think I had prepared my body a little bit by doing the Lyme treatment for the 3 years, starting in 2012.
Yeah.
I had a better baseline. Mentally, I was definitely prepared to receive the information that recovery was possible. I lost both my parents in a short period of time and moved to a new state. So I was feeling like, God, I can't be like this forever. I can't. What happens when I get elderly? And I saw my parents deteriorate, and I thought, God, with this disease, how is that going to look?
Claudia, like you've been suffering for over 30 years. I mean, I imagine that you were just as motivated and just as unhappy with, and unaccepting of the illness in the beginning or in the middle or many times, And I'm wondering, what changed?
What changed? Yeah.
And how could you even be open-minded? I mean, had you heard of other people recovering from the illness?
No.
Okay.
I shouldn't say no. I'd heard of one guy who claimed to have recovered from it, and I investigated it, and it was not solid. Right. So no, I had heard of people who had recovered early on in the disease, maybe in the first year or two, and I always thought, well, they probably didn't have it. They probably had something else. Chronic fatigue, maybe the symptom, not the disease. Chronic fatigue syndrome, right? There's a definite difference between those two things.
Huge difference.
Yeah. So no, I didn't believe recovery was possible. I wasn't seeking out recovery when this program came to me.
But why would you then even consider it? I mean, why you get some book, some bald guy from Australia, and he's trying some book, and, like, you're in touch with all the research. This guy says maybe it's possible to recover. I mean, surely that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So this is how it went down. So the book, I think you requested to post the book on my Facebook group. Right. And I never posted anything that wasn't sound research. That was the premise of the whole group.
Okay.
So I thought, I can't post this until I check it out.
Okay.
So I went to the website and I downloaded the first Discover Hope book, and I read it, and I thought, oh my gosh, well, so far this is clearly based on reality and biology, and he knows the disease. So I was intrigued enough to keep reading. So I also watched a couple of recovery videos, and I could see the authenticity in those videos.
Yes.
It was definitely not snake oil. And I
mean,
knew that.
You must have been shocked. I mean, being involved in all the advocacy and the websites and all the stuff you're doing, and then you find this website with recovery interviews, and you're listening to them, and they actually, you can see that people are really ill and who are really well. And I mean, what was that first video like for you, and what's going on in your head?
I still had tons of skepticism, because here were the thoughts in my mind. Well, they were not as sick as me, or they had some slightly different version of it than I did, or they have just a different makeup than I do, and so they could do this, and it worked for them. I've tried everything. It's not going to work for me. And so there was this huge barrier. I had every excuse in the book was coming up, right? But I still felt intrigued by what I was reading and hearing. So I ordered the book and I started reading the Kindle version before the Amazon book arrived. And all this was in one day. This was not over a period of a month. It was one day.
Yes.
And so it was just, I was flooding myself with it because I couldn't get enough. And I told my husband when he came home, and I said, you won't believe this. This is phenomenal. I can't believe I haven't heard about this before. And this makes sense to me. And I think there was a point in your book where you had 5 steps, and one of them was to align yourself with a naturopath. And this is so bizarre, but that week, my neurologist, just in passing, had said, by the way, we have a naturopath on staff here. Why don't you set up a consultation? And I had just set that up. And so I felt like, and this is really bizarre, but I felt like all these things were unfolding in front of me. Someone was going like this, right? And in the past, I've ignored those and learned that you should never ignore those. And so I thought, I am going to open myself up to this and just try. It doesn't cost that much. It's not going to take that long for me to just try.
And look, I'm assuming that those recovery interviews weren't of people who were in my program. They were just people who recovered in all different ways that you saw. Would that be true?
It was a mix, yeah.
It was a mix,
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how it started. It was never about the program. It was just about people who recovered,
yeah,
in whatever ways, you know.
Well, it's interesting because as you watch those, you see common threads, though.
Yeah,
you see
I hope people see that, but I'm not sure that they do.
I definitely did. I saw a lot of common threads in what people try and what seemed to work.
Okay. So, so you decide you're clearly thinking, well, this is possible, maybe for other people. I'm not sure if you're convinced for yourself.
I was not.
And then you decide to go into the ANS Rewire program. Now, look, again, I just want to say to anyone listening, you had one of those, what I would say, atypically fast recoveries. There is a proportion of people who have these very quick recoveries. There are reasons behind that, but I always want to say, don't expect to have like such a fast recovery as you did.
I didn't expect that.
I took somewhere between 12 and 24 months to recover. Mind you, I didn't have all the resources that you did, but many people I meet recover in a year and a half. So it really varies, And what I would say is that it doesn't necessarily depend on how sick you are either.
Right.
So strangely enough, I often see some of the sickest people take the least time, and some of the more well people actually take longer.
Wow.
And it gets very complicated, and certainly it's very frustrating. It's very counterintuitive. So yeah, it's a bit all over the show. But can you tell us a little bit how long it took you to recover in the program, and how long you've been well now?
So I started the program March 1st, and by the end of May, so 3 months later, I had completed the program, and I thought that I was about 85% recovered. Right. But in our conversation at that point, I realized I'm 100% recovered. My brain just hasn't caught up with the idea. I hadn't experienced enough positive experiences, events to, solidify the fact that, oh my gosh, this is for real.
Yes. Yes. Actually, I do remember that conversation, because you said 85% of recovery. I said, oh, fantastic. That's great. Congratulations. And I said, so, what symptoms do you still have? What kind of things will still trigger flare-ups? And you go, well, I have no symptoms, and nothing I'll do triggers a flare-up. And I go, well, why are you 85% or 100%? Maybe the look on your face is like,
the brain is a little slower to react. After, 3 months is a really short period of time to catch up with that idea.
So it must have been, obviously a very confusing time. And I know you've had, confusing time afterwards still, trying to adjust to this reality. And look, I certainly relate to that. I often tell people that after never been a runner, I actually don't like running. I don't run now, but I did run because I could, and I remember I was running, I don't know how long, 10, 20 minutes, running a beautiful sunny afternoon, and I hadn't been ill in years, not in years, in maybe 6 months. I hadn't had any symptoms. I'd been able to do whatever I want, no flare-ups. It's all good, right?
Yeah.
And I tried to think of myself as a well person, and I realized even whilst running and not having any symptoms,
Right.
I couldn't do it because, you get so smashed up
Yeah.
for so many years.
Right.
It's like who you are, and
Right.
it's really hard to think of yourself as well, even when you are.
Yeah. Well, and I don't even think I know what well is still, right?
Yeah.
It's difficult to embody that still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, there's obviously a lot of people who are listening who are not in the program, and I want them to get something out of this interview, whether they get into the program or not. It's not like, it's not about, this is not like a promo.
Right.
The interviews have always been with people doing whatever, right? They were not advertisements for other programs.
Right.
They're about sharing insights and about them learning something. I mean, first of all, what would you say to them even is the program? I mean, an online program? I mean, surely you're supposed to get treatment from your doctor to get well. How does this make any sense?
Well, so for me, I would describe it as comprehensive, first of all, because I feel like it contained all of the elements necessary to attack this disease. So, nutrition and movement and pain management and brain training and sleep training, I guess, posture. So all these different elements all combined, and it's multilateral, and it's presented to you so that you can do it at a self-paced, in a self-paced environment. So you watch the video as you feel like you're able to.
Was that important for you?
Yes. Yeah. Because there's always, when you're sick with ME/CFS and fibro, there's always that background fear that, what if I do too much, I'm going to have a relapse, or what if I can't pay attention long enough, and so yeah, that's hugely important. Take it as you can in small segments. You don't do it tomorrow, do it the next day. Do it as you need to. And go back and do it again if you have to.
Yeah.
Do it 6 times. It doesn't matter.
You would have obviously done probably many of the things in the program already. I mean, people do things like pacing their activities so that they don't get flare-ups.
Yes.
People change their diet to have a healthier diet. Many people do gentle exercises like yoga. Many people do, some mind-body things, like some meditation. If you'd been doing all of these things, I mean, what do you need the program for? I mean, like...
That's a good question. There were a couple of huge missing elements for me. I was already meditating, but when I ramped up my meditation as recommended, it really had a big impact on my nervous system. I felt it happening. In fact, I felt it enough that it scared me.
Yes.
While I was meditating, sometimes I felt these strange sensations happening. So it was definitely setting a foundation.
Yeah. What kind of strange sensations?
It was, and I Googled it and found out that it's pretty natural. But I would go so I was doing a 45-minute session every day, and I would go through these sort of like 10-minute cycles where I would fall deeper and deeper into my meditation, and it felt like I was leaving this planet. It was definite escapism. I was somewhere else, and it was almost like when you're falling asleep and you have that, that jolt.
Yes.
That was sort of what it felt like. Like I went somewhere, and then I realized there's like the other part of your brain says, "Whoa, where'd you go?" And then poof, I'm back, and I
literally like that, isn't it?
Literally, yeah. But then it felt really good at the same time, and so I started to just learn that I needed to just relax into it. And it was the same principle with pain.
Yes.
I needed to relax into the pain and not fight against the pain.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I learned some lessons through both of those examples for sure.
So the program obviously encourages you to work with other professionals if you need to. Yeah?
Yes.
You mentioned you had a neurologist, you had doctors. Did you do anything new or different with them? Did you end up working with that naturopath? Were there any other treatments that you used in adjunct with the program, as the program encourages you to do, that you think was important?
Yes. So a couple of things that I did. Some of the things I stopped doing that were helpful. One was leaving advocacy before I started the program, and this was just something that came up within myself. I felt like I had part of me in both worlds, the sick and the healthy worlds, and I couldn't be split like that anymore. And my being wanted health. You know, I wanted health more than anything, or we all wanted that, right? So I decided, well, being over here in the sick community is not helping me achieve that goal. I kept hearing through my meditation practice, what you focus on is what you become. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to give up the advocacy, and I'm going to give up contact with social media, with everything having to do with the sick world. All that
must have been hard.
It was very traumatic. It was very difficult to make the decision, but once I did it, it felt like a huge relief. It was very liberating.
Did you hand, like the Facebook group, did you hand it over to someone else to manage, or did it just stop?
No, I had 3 very helpful people who had agreed to take it over, and they still run the page. So that it was, you know, I felt comfortable that I could do that without letting people down.
Yes.
So yeah,
so you can wave them a quick hi now.
Hi guys, thank you.
Okay.
So that was something I gave up. I also gave up my weekly massage treatments because I felt like they were actually at a point where they were causing me more pain and harm than they were helping. Right. And I had done that for many, many years, probably 2 decades. So I stopped. So that was 2 things that I gave up. Then,
interesting. What made you give that up? Was it just your intuition?
I think it was because I moved. I had a different massage therapist, and it just didn't work well anymore.
Yeah.
But I realized that once I stopped, I didn't need it. It wasn't helping me. So then I did start seeing that naturopath. And on my first visit, I gave him your book, actually, because it was the timing of such. I just had started reading it, and I said, look, you know, I'm not pushing this on you, but I just want you to be aware that this is something I'm following right now. And if you advise me otherwise, I'll listen, but you know, I'd like for you to know what I'm in. So he actually purchased the book and read the book, and I think he called you. And my next visit, he told me that, and I was floored because I had never even been to a medical provider who had acknowledged ME/CFS before, let alone someone who would go that many extra miles. I was so emotional. I think I cried in his office. And every time I see him, he thanks me. He thanks me for helping him help his patients.
Yeah, so, that's wonderful.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So he was super supportive, which I think was really helpful for me. But he did make some changes. He doubled my thyroid medication. And you asked about that. He also added progesterone. I had a hysterectomy back when I was 38. I had endometriosis. That was another one of my laundry list diagnoses.
And actually, it's my firm view. I understand that people have endometriosis who don't have CFS and fibromyalgia, but it's my firm view that that those things are connected. So people who have CFS and fibromyalgia, the fact that they end up with these issues is due to the root cause of the illness. It's not coincidence, because people always think, how can I be so unlucky to have so many different illnesses? Right? It's like, am I cursed? And it's like, well, it's not different illnesses. It's just
one
different
thing.
Expressions.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's what it felt like on the inside.
Yeah. And some of those things take on a life of their own, you know, that all needs to be addressed. But it's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So, okay.
so he added. I was on estrogen. He added the progesterone, and actually, the progesterone worked synergistically with the estrogen. I didn't know that it would help with the estrogen. It also helped me sleep better. Instantly, I noticed I was sleeping much better. And once you get some good sleep, you start feeling better. So it helped me. It was a good starting point. I think he tweaked a couple of supplements too.
Yeah.
Nothing dramatic. I was maybe taking 5 or 6, and that was about it.
Yeah. So these were like energy metabolism kind of supplements.
Like
vitamins,
D3,
magnesium,
B12,
yeah,
C,
okay.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Stuff.
So, did you make all the changes at once? I mean, when you first started to notice some change, I mean, what are you thinking?
So no, I didn't make them all at once. I was very slow. In fact, he kept asking me if I wanted to take progesterone, and I kept saying, let's wait, because the thyroid, and the supplements and this program, and I'm all about the scientific approach, change one thing and see what happens. So we did it very slowly, very gradually. But I would say, first and foremost, I noticed my sleep was improved. And part of that was the progesterone, but part of it was the sleep part of your program. I practiced good sleep hygiene, which I already had done most of, but I hadn't incorporated all of it. I listened to the sleep video. I didn't do it very often, but I did it enough that I knew what it was, and binaural beats were part of my practice too, so I did that at night. Let's see. So those were some of the first things I noticed, and then I noticed that, and I don't remember when it was in the program, several weeks into it, I think, I noticed, oh my gosh, I had 3 consecutive days where I felt good. That was new. What was that about, And of course my reaction was, oh, that'll never happen again. That was great.
Yeah.
And then I started noticing that in the evening, I still felt like I did when I woke up in the morning.
Yeah.
There wasn't that, oh God, I can barely make it through the rest of the night, I still felt like I could take a shower and go out and do something. I started experimenting with doing activities in the early morning, because prior to that, I could not function in the morning at all. If I tried to do anything in the morning before, say, at 10 or 11 o'clock, the rest of my day felt horrible. I would get a migraine, or I would have exhaustion, or it would set off a full-blown relapse, and you just go into a doctor's appointment or anything in the morning. So I noticed that I could start doing that, and it was okay. My days became longer. That was a bonus.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, I have this whole block of time to do stuff now.
What do I do?
Yeah, where do I find
Now, obviously, pain is real. Obviously, nobody is suggesting that you're imagining the pain or anything like this. And you're doing a lot of different strategies. Like you say, ANSVI is multilateral. It is based on the idea, though, that it's not just central sensitization, but there's other processes that are wrong in the body. Inflammation, gut dysfunction, lots of things. And it's also talking about the fact that really what's driving all of this is the dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. So you're doing all of these things, and there's some specific things for pain. But, I mean, how did the pain resolve? I mean, how do you go from having pain all the time to now not having any pain? I mean, did it happen in one go? Was it a particular strategy or a treatment, or how did this happen?
It was so